Why did the Scarecrow get an award?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
You dick! Did you read this?
No.
After everything had dwindled with episode 3, we got a much higher expectation for episode 4 after the release of the trailer. Episode 4 actually reflects Ellie's biography. Her behavior and how she becomes so important in the Last of Us TV show. If you haven't watched these 2 videos about Ellie, I will leave a link down below the description section just for you to get abreasted with Ellie's biography as well as how important she becomes in the Last of Us TV show. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a breakdown of the Last of Us episode 4, giving you a recap, a review, and some of the key details in this episode. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And as already here, you have to boost me up by subscribing to this channel. Just a clicker on the subscription button. Well, you're not a clicker, so click it now and let's move. Episode 4 of The Last of Us starts with Ellie in the bathroom alone, playing with the handgun she found, and we already know where she found this handgun. She pulls the trigger, loads and unloads it before heading back to see Joel. They pray out an abandoned truck to, fill a gas and get ready to move to wherever they want to go to, and we already know where they are trying to go, trying to find the Fireflies and find Tommy as well. There's some nice little bit of banter between them as Ellie reads out her pants from the comic she found earlier in the series. As I already mentioned, Ellie's biography tells us exactly what she's going to be. It tells us what she really loves, her likes, so that once you get to see this video or get to listen, you are able to understand how all these things are going to unfold and how all these things are going to make the TV series interesting. And to go back to what I mentioned earlier on, Ellie as Bella May Ramsey is a different person altogether. So Isabella May Ramsey played the role of Ellie in the Last of Us TV show, but in the Last of Us TV series is a different kind of person. That was voice acting, so this one is quite different when you look at the TV show. So we get episode 4 moving, where we had great lines of dialogue in terms of the games as well as the TV show, particularly from scenes that were meant to take place in Bill's hometown. When Ellie picks up a man's magazine, she makes the joke that the pages are all stuck together. After some time, she tosses it outside and 2 hike on, eventually settling on a campsite deep within the woods. There was a funny joke about that part where when Ellie picks up a man's magazine, all the pages were stagnant. I don't know whether I should explain that part to you, but if you do get it, just leave a comment in the comment section for us. Perhaps it's because we've been spoiled by the lengthy nature of the first 3 episodes, but Please Hold My Hand, which clocked in 45 minutes and ended on a cliffhanger, seemed designed solely to keep the most recent batch of supporting players around for another installment. So following the hardship they face on the road, Joel and Ellie's relationship grows stronger with each other. And when we look at the first 3 episodes, well, let's say the episode 2 and episode 3, people will start wondering whether Joel was a bad guy, Joel hated Ellie, or Ellie hated Joel. Whichever it was, it wasn't so. They have been through a lot, especially with Joel, and losing her only daughter would just be traumatic. To find another cargo, a small lady just like her daughter, to be transported to another part of the world, to know who knows whatever is going to happen, and that is something that he's been concerned about, but he doesn't want to think so much about Ellie. Everything has changed in the world, and that is the only memory he can recall. After what happened to Tess, Joel tried to convince himself that Ellie's existence served the purpose, but in the car, he had to make it clear that he wasn't really worried about Ellie, giving to being taken to the Fireflies. It was just about he being worried where Ellie's taken to his brother, so he wanted to do better by finding the Fireflies himself. But as the show goes on, we hear a lot of talk about Tommy, and I really hope that Joel gets to see his brother once again. People in the universe can only keep going if they have hope, and that is what I think in this world we have here. It's all about having that hope, and Joel hopes to reconnect with Tommy despite their extensive history together. Nevertheless, it is clear that the tension exists in their relationship from just listening on his conversations with Ellie, and that is how he explained where Tommy had been working, how he moved from one place to the other. This reflects or shows us what happened in episode 1 when Tommy came to pick up Joel and Ellie when they were moving the truck that Tommy bought. You saw that veteran sticker on that, and we already know where Joel had been working, so it sort of relates with each other. So from the premiere of the last season 1, we learned that Tommy doesn't always make the best decision, often relies on his brother to get him out of jams, and that is a clear example when he punched someone in the restaurant and was sent to jail. I mean, that was the moment the whole infected broke out, the cordyceps broke out. But we can ask ourselves, is Joel no longer able to assess his sibling? I don't think so, but a lot of things has changed, and we are yet to see a lot of the story between Joel and Tommy in the next few episodes. I don't know if they are going to inculcate this in season 1, but when you play the video game, you realize that Tommy and Joel really did so much together. So we move on. Perhaps Joel's unwillingness to help his brother after Sarah's death was a final straw in the relationship between them, as it would make sense given the new Joel that emerged in the wake of Sarah's passing. And I already mentioned this, it changed everything for him. It is also evident that the siblings hold divergent values, where we know Tommy was an employee of the Fireflies, and we know that this group is really committed to putting things right. I mean, after 20 years where the world is in a devastated state because of this virus or pandemic, Joel, he's not very optimistic that the cordyceps can be reversed. There's not much reason to be surprised that Joel gave up hope, since the only thing we know about Joel and Tess did, that happened in 20 years, backwards, And after some flashbacks in couple of the episodes, we are focused on the aftermath of Sarah's death. The nature of their relationship is quite obscure, and to me, it's a very strong one. To me, as brothers, it's a very strong one, because Tommy was a bit careless, but Joel was always trying to be very careful and always looking out for his brother. However, the story arc of the games is being told over a long time period, so there will inevitably be changes made to the original source material. And this is something that I'm just wondering, because when you play the video game, there are so many challenges that Joel and Ellie face while they travel to find the Fireflies and even Tommy. But there's so much limitation in, I don't know whether they didn't have enough clickers or they didn't have enough of the infected people to act in the TV show. It makes me wonder what really went wrong in this particular episode. And in this episode, we saw that Ellie started trusting Joel. In this episode, we saw that Ellie is more trusting than Joel, showcasing the show skills at contrasting two opposing viewpoints. A person like Joel, who was toughen up in the new world, will have a different outlook, like someone in Ellie, like someone like Ellie, who just came out of the world in the early 2000s. While she's just a young girl, she had not seen enough, and her majority of her life has really been in a very safe environment. Ellie's decision to conceal Bill's gun could have impacted her relationship with Joel, whether for better or for worse. And Joel found it hard to accept the idea of a child carrying a gun, during this their session. And that was when Joel realized that the girl is not that naive. Ellie is not that naive. She makes it clear that she's done some pretty bad things, but you see, Joel sees Sarah in her, and that is what is really helping Joel keep her alive. It's understandable, in light of what happened to Sarah, he preferred to keep Ellie away from any weapons that could cause harm in any wrong hands at all. I mean, in the end, Ellie quits thinking and bravely saved his life, but he assumed it wrongly that it wasn't needed for him to have it wasn't needed for her to even have a gun in the first place. We got some great scenes of Joel teaching Ellie how to use a gun safely, and he learned that Ellie is more mature than he gives her credit for. While Joel denied there's anything wrong, Ellie noticed that Joel isn't really well. And the final scenes where he sleeps through Henry and Sam's arrival reinforces this. As the episode progressed, Kathleen gave us numerous updates on Henry. This is something that when I saw in episode 4, I wasn't really much happy with that, because the side of Henry showed us more. It made us feel a little bit safe, because Henry's camp was much safer, it was secured, they had armor, they had enough food, and even at that point, to drop a spoiler alert, that was where we saw Abby. There was a connection between Henry and Abby, but we don't know how these things, the whole changes came in the TV show. I don't know, it doesn't seem right, but anyways, we still love the show. We have to keep watching and see how things are going to unfold. The larger problem is that Kathleen had not redeeming, very good quality. Her team is unflinching in their pursuit of the mission at hand, which should serve as a red flag that they aren't even planning to stay longer. Lynskey's performance as the IC leader of a band of hunters was chilling. Kathleen drives comes down to the fact that she's losing friends and family members left and right, center, here and there, and she's fed up with it. She's just fed up. Unfortunately, after the high stakes of the first 3 episodes, the fourth, please hold my hand, slow down a lot of things, and that's what I mentioned. Like when you compare to the TV show, you compare the TV show and the TV, the video game, you can see that a lot of things have really been slowed down. But anyways, we move on to the next scene. But we didn't really have enough of the infected people in episode 4. I don't think we even saw one. But in episode 2, they were full of infected people, where we saw the ground shake in episode 4, and we realized that slow pace was really vibrant. It was very clear for us to see what really happened. This version isn't bad, and the characters are definitely getting better at what they do. But it's not the best zombie show out there either. Given that there are so many of the dramas in the genre, especially in Asia with titles like Happiness and All of Us Are Dead and Kingdom. For those who haven't watched All of Us Are Dead and Kingdom, you sort of understand where we are coming from. It's good though, not perfect, it's good though. And I think we all wonder about Kathleen coming on board in this episode 4. In the TV game, it's quite different. And I just feel like the TV show has cut off a lot of things too soon. We might not get to see what really goes on in the bonding aspect between Joel and Ellie in the TV show, but in the game, they spend so much time together. They spend doing a lot of things. But so far, so good. I'm going to give it like 7.5 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. Just that the scenes are great, the fights, the attacks, everything is so real, and it tells us that the directors and the characters are putting in so much work. And we just hope we just hope season 2 will grab more of what happened in the TV game, so that we the fans can actually relate with whatever happened among the characters and even in the action aspect as well. So what do you think? Do you feel like the show was cut off too soon? Do you feel like a lot of scenes were cut off, or because they liked characters, they didn't want to spend so much money, they had a budget, they needed to make sure that the right scenes has to come in the TV show? I felt like a lot of scenes had been cut out. When the time in the TV game, when we look at Ellie making those jokes, it wasn't really there. But I think this had been a very comic episode.
It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
It was entirely funny for me, aside the fact that we're about to lose Joel when he was being attacked by one guy. But it's been very fun with the jokes, and even at the end of the episode, Ellie drops in a very silly joke that got Joel laughing throughout. But then again, while Joel and Ellie were sleeping, 2 people show up, a young guy and a young girl. Actually, there were 2 guys, and we asked ourselves, what is going to happen to the 2? Not to give you any spoiler alerts, these 2 guys were not even as brave as Joel and Ellie. And it's a brother. There's a relationship between these 2 people. The little boy and the guy, they were brother, his little brother. And that is how come they found themselves in that place, pointing the gun at Ellie and Joel. So far, so good. We hope to see you in the next episode. And as I mentioned, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.